Quorum, but in respect to everybody's time, maybe we should get started. I know that one of the things Erica just said that we need to table is the recap on the May 1st council item regarding employment.
Oh, okay.
So she's saying to table that because Dr. Chamberlain is not available. So it's 11:07, so if I may, let's call the City of Laredo Blue Ribbon Committee for People with Disabilities meeting to order. It's Wednesday, May 17th, and it's 11:07. To review and approve the minutes, we cannot because we don't have quorum. So, boy, this meeting is going fast. We're doing well on time. Okay, so now we're going to the recognition for Ms. Cecilia Gutierrez for completing the Project Leadership Challenge. Look, I Texas Tech where my son went to school, but she's not here.
No, I think she's gonna come in a little bit later, so we can.
So we'll postpone that as well. Goodness. All right. So now we need a report from Christina.
Yes.
The special needs program.
I'm gonna a couple of things just to report from this previous month, and I have a quick presentation of the topics that have been brought into our program and our community and some concerns. So just reporting, our training and support for parent caregivers of children with autism was hosted on April 21st. The program again offered the essential guidance on ABA techniques and strategies to improve behaviors at home and school. I know Dr. Mireles came in and added more of the caring for the caregiver aspect, so we're going to continue adding the strategies and modifications or methods that they could do at home for ABA transitional needs. So that was, we had Dr. Mireles doing that portion of it, and then we had Mr. Homero Cantu to help us with the nutrition portion, and then we had Ms. Barbara help us with the mental health coping strategies. A lot of the feedback that I got from the families was this was much needed. So I took that back within the survey for the state to say we're going to have to, of course, create a summit. You know, because I really enjoyed it. Add additional topics such as recreational therapy. We can have different other topics to where it's an all-day event with different topics to cater to different needs. So it being a successful training and support program, we want to continue this quarterly, and we're going to be partnering up with UT Health for the next presentation at their facility, and this is going to be at the end of June. Of course, when updates come in for the new presentation or summit, we'll share it with the families, share it with the BRC, share it with everyone so that they have information on it. But again, that day summit that we're looking into again is going to have various topics that are caring for the caregiver's health and well-being, but also assisting them with any type of strategies they could do at home for their loved one with autism or IDD. The webinars that we're going to offer this month, it includes the transition tips for launching your special needs teen into adulthood. We started sharing it with all our platforms as well as within community support groups. We want families to know that this specific topic includes the transitional to healthcare, what's the next step for planning, financial planning, beneficiaries, healthcare, you know, all that. So this is a great webinar that we present quarterly to the families, other than the mental health aspect of it. But this is one topic I always encourage families to come into, especially that we're on the break of graduation. What's the next step? The workshops and the events that we're going to offer in the month of June and July are going to include water safety. We are collaborating with the Aquatics Division. We've created a permanent schedule for the summer season where Mondays and Saturdays are going to be hosted for water safety. And the water safety instruction presentation class includes the education portion, and right after the education portion, they're going to go straight into the water for the live instructions. We were piloting the program. Well, we learned that we had it separate 2 days, the presentation one day in the in-water, and I was like, I thought about my Daniel too. I said, they're going to want to go straight into the water. So we decided So we decided to combine them, and then instead of having one every week, we're going to have two every week where it's Monday and Saturday. So that's what we're working.
And the number of kids still remains the same?
The way Aquatics has it, because of the ordinance that they have, is 4 years to adults. So they'll have 4 years to adults. As far as the registrations of that day, they are opening it. One thing we also learned through the pilot program was that we can have 50 families registered, 10 will come.
Yes.
And we understand things come up that day.
Right.
You know, it could be the child's not feeling well, or the transition day is not up to par for the transition, or you know they just didn't sleep well, and or they have an therapy appointment. So we're just gonna leave it open, and if we start seeing a break of where we see more of the capacity, then we'll start breaking down the registration aspect of it, because we just want to make it available for the families, because we did have a waiting list, and again, if we had a cap of 50 families, we had a waiting list of 20, and then only 10 will show up, and those 20 weren't given the opportunity.
Right.
So we're going to keep it open.
Yeah.
Excuse me, welcome Jeanette. There she is.
I did provide a form in each of the folders. It's the state-supported living centers information from the Texas Council of Developmental Disabilities. Not only is it a hot topic here in Laredo, it's a hot topic for the state.
Excellent.
So just this past week, we're going to continue sharing the TCDD's meeting forums, which happen monthly. It's almost a week long, where they go into policies, they go into concerns, House bills, and so on for the state level. Just last week, they presented a House bill that's going to be adding more funding to the Medicaid waiver. So if you're not familiar with the Medicaid waiver, I'm going to do a presentation real quick. But again, this state-supported living centers, it gives them a background of what the state is trying to implement when it comes regarding having a safer, healthier integration into the community living, and then prioritizing the family's health as well as their individual with IDD in the home, of being able to connect them to the community-based services, and then what other additional services they need and how to get that process going. I've done a mini survey myself, where I'm talking to several families with young adults, and I've asked them, have you already done your Medicaid waiver? What is that? Or what is this? So we go back to the education of it. You know, the Medicaid waiver, there is a long waiting list. It's more than 15 years. But there's a reason for that, because it goes within the age of the child and it grows with them. I know the process is lengthy when it comes to any application, when it comes to the state, but just like SSI, you have to report monthly, you have to check in, and that's what state programs are. So I'm trying to encourage families that that's key. Unfortunately, not all families are willing to do that. They don't want to do it, and we can't change their mind, but the education is still there. We're going to still educate them and still motivate them to do it, because at the end of the day, it's going to fall on their loved one. Do we have a move? Oh, it's right here. I keep forgetting this is the mouse. This is scary. I like the mouse better. Sorry, taking a while to click on things. I don't know, can Jeanette see this? Jeanette, can you see my PowerPoint?
No, you'll have to share it with her.
Oh, okay.
Go back to the buttons.
Oh.
No, I can't. I'm watching the opposite wall.
Okay, go into the.
Here you go. Bring your mouse. It's a quick, well, I say quick, right, but it's a lot of information, but it's only 4 slides with a lot of information, but.
I think we're doing well on time.
So, again, our program, we try to emphasize and educate the families about the importance of transitional planning. We include educational webinars throughout the month. Sorry, I'm going to move this in case you need to read. So several of the topics that are key that we provide to families is, do I need a guardianship? Again, we educate families because they don't know the difference between guardianship, power of attorney, and they're very vital as soon as the child becomes an adult. Our culture has been, a lot of the families I get in, I know culturally we think it's just a transition, we don't need to do anything, and then sometimes grandma and grandpa come into play, and then when they go to the doctor or need some type of care, they can't make those decisions. So we try to teach them early on about the caregivers, about the guardianship and the power of attorney.
Right.
We also look at the independence as a process. So we do talk about several transitioning practices that the families can do in going into adulthood, and we do invite the behavior analysts to come in and talk about the common barriers for the families. We also go through the webinars and education information for Government Benefits 101 of how it starts from childhood into adulthood and what the transition is like from Medicaid to Medicare and then SSI. We do have great turnouts in these webinars. We get almost 80, 90 families per webinar, but I will be very honest with you, probably 1/3 of the families are from out of town. So they're learning that we're doing it and they're invited, and then, but I would love to see, of course, more Laredo families. Not that we want to close it off to outside families, we're sharing with them, but we do see outside families coming in, and we don't close or cap the webinars. But we would hope to see more participation from the Laredo community.
How do you think we can do that?
We share it as much as we can through our platforms, through community support groups, but I think, again, going back into these webinars, families don't really know what the topic is. They hear guardianship and they might think it's something else, or they hear Government Benefits 101, like for instance, the SSI, when I reintroduced it to a family, they're like, we don't qualify, or they only give me $1. And I said, well, you know, I'm not saying $1 is everything, but did you not know that if you keep your SSI, they automatically have Medicaid? And when they have it, and they're like, mind blown to know that that's something that they didn't know. Because once they got rid of the SSI or they didn't report, they lost Medicaid.
If I may add to that, most people don't know who receive SSI. They don't realize that if they acquired a disability prior to the age of 25, there is an account called an ABLE account. They can contribute that, I think, a lifetime of up to $500,000 into that account. And what happens is, even if they go integrate into the workforce, if they drop monies in every month, it doesn't count towards their deductions on SSI.
Yes.
If that element right there is introduced to families, it will change the whole gamut.
Yes, and in this presentation, we have a financial planner that comes in and speaks about the ABLE accounts. Because we have families, we open up the chat, we open up the questions, and some families say, if I own this and I want to sell this, or if my income is this and I want to get them off of my income. So they're there giving one-on-one instruction and advice of what they can and cannot do. And it's just to be safe so that they can preserve the SSI benefits and be able to reap them as they come into adulthood. So that's the great part about this program. And then coming into that, we wanted to go further here at the City of Laredo Health Department and get individuals certified to help families applying for SSI. So I became certified, and then we have 2 other caseworkers here. So we're just trying to fill in those gaps to be able to help them, and if they, of course, if they have questions. But I always recommend them going into the webinar because the financial planners are there to answer every question, and it can be specific or unique, and they're there to be able to assist them. Okay. Another one is the special needs planning, the Medicaid waivers, SSI eligibility, and preserving benefits. It's somewhat similar to the previous one, but adding the Medicaid waivers and how they come into play. This one gives the entire education of all the Texas waivers. Again, Texas waivers range from 0 to 21, 0 to 18, 21 and older to adult. So they give all the education and the benefit, preserving the benefits within, again, with the ABLE counts, going into specifically the Texas IDD service system. So all of that, again, goes into Navigate Texas. A lot of the families, we share that website, which I'll share with you in just a minute. Any question they may have, again, it being specific or unique, Navigate Texas will help find it for them or find the resource and connect them to that. So we always let families know there's any unique question, any specific question, we're here to help. We have it's not so unique. Other families are also going through it, and it's also been solved, or there's also been resources and solutions. Another one is the key steps to achieving transition success. The considerations such as transitioning future care options and preservation of the benefit eligibility of a few items that require intentional evaluation. So within that, going into further care for your young adult going into adulthood, we talk about preserving the benefits and how the transition process has a plan. A lot of families go into the transition saying, okay, what's next? Well, Texas Navigate has all that plan, what you are supposed to be doing, and there's a timeline. And of course, let's just say you're behind and you want to catch up, there's always catch up. But just as long as you try your best to fit in that timeline, because all of those benefits are going to be preserved and assisted with you through the transitional process. Navigate Life Texas is a website that we share with our families. It goes into the diagnosis in healthcare. So this is, again, it's starting from when the diagnosis. If there's any questions coming into the diagnosis, education in schools, it talks about TDA, 504 plans, IEPs, ARDs, how to approach them, resources for that, insurance and financial help. Again, a better understanding the insurance, better understanding the benefits of health and financial help that they're out there. I can give you an example, Spina Bifida Texas, a great program in San Antonio that covers South Texas. Let's just say the child's AFOs can't be covered, or let's just say they need a different wheelchair that's growing with them, or Spina Bifida Texas is a great organization that assists children with spina bifida to get that medical equipment. So they have that as a resource for families. Or if it's specifically tailored to the disability, they have those options as well. Family support, again, you'll see programs like ours, you'll see other nonprofit organizations that are assigned or that are partnered with them, so that in case families statewide need the assistance, support, virtual or in person, they have all that information. The transition to adulthood, again, they have all of the information of the process, the timeline. They have also the Medicaid waiver information. It goes into even what goes into the transitional planning, the timelines of transitional planning, and planning for a time when you can't care for your child. So it gives all the options and information.
That's huge. It worries a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And then, as far as the Medicaid waivers, what are waivers and how do they work? And then it has other questions that families have asked that are very common. So the Texas Medicaid waivers, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 current ones. We have the Community Living Assistance and Support Services, which gives a home of community-based supports to children and adults with related conditions. There are over 200 conditions like cerebral palsy and spina bifida, and the related comments occurred before the child was age 22. Deaf, blind, and multiple disabilities gives services for children and adults who are deaf and blind or have a related condition that leads to deaf blindness or have another disability. So these are two specific classes of waivers that assist with resources and benefits. But then coming to the home and community-based services, everything from there and down assists any disability. So there are specific ones where, of course, where it's deaf and blind and multiple disabilities, and then you have the IDD. And then they add into cerebral palsy as well, and spina bifida, because it's neurological, so they class it. So the home and community-based services give services and support to children and adults with intellectual disabilities or related conditions who live with their families in their homes or small groups with no more than 4 people. Medically dependent children programs, the STAR Plus. The STAR Plus has been part of our House bill from the Texas Council of Developmental Disabilities from this past week. Specifically, it gives services to adults over the age of 21 to keep them in their community and not in a nursing home facility. So they're expanding those services for community-based services to be at home with their loved ones as well as outside the home. It just depending, of course, it goes case by case.
That's great.
So I always, again, share with our committee that those meetings, I know they're lengthy. There might be some topics that don't pertain. I listen to everything to see what we can benefit from, of course, but specifically with the state-supported living centers, that's been one of the hot topics of the state. And I know if the state is struggling, I'm sure we're going to be struggling, but we're trying again to find a solution or find a resource. So I know tomorrow during the Autism Coalition meeting, we are going to be having Mr. David, the Executive Director of Life Communities. He's going to be speaking on the initiative they have for an autism community and how they've started to plan it. It's not yet groundbreaking yet, but it's the plan. They already got land, so they're working on seeing what's the next step. We had discussed that outside private sectors do need to come into play for this, so that's what we're trying to do as a health department, is help educate and see if we can connect those resources. But again, we know it's a concern. We're just trying to also see what immediate resources we have right now, which are these waivers, as well as the community-based services like VAIL, to come into play to start helping the transition process, like the timeline the state recommends. But of course, if there's any questions in regarding to the resources and how to link, let me know. And I know after the meeting, we're going to share all the links, as well as the Navigate Texas Live, so that if we want to share with more families, because I do share it with the families that come into our program. But again, I think it goes back to the family wanting to again explore a little bit more into the website, see what more if there's questions. Because I've had families before saying, Ms. Reyes, I went into the website and I didn't know. Again, we could have families that don't have internet, don't have a computer. Right. So we're looking at the gaps to see where we can help and the challenges and barriers to help. So I always let the families know, if you need anything, we're here as a program. You're more than welcome to set an appointment, or we can work virtually and then see how we can find that resource for you. So just know our program is here and we do that and we help educate in that portion. It's a lot. It was 4 sides, but it was a lot. I'm so sorry.
Don't apologize. Thank you.
But yes, I know it's a major concern, but we do, again, we just want to educate the families that there are current resources here right now. And I know it's not the whole enchilada, right? The whole enchilada, but it's resources.
We're getting it.
Yes.
Thank you for that information.
Excellent work.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I always tell families, take advantage of the Texas Medicaid waivers. Take advantage, because everything from medical equipment, services, individuals coming into the home with the nursing assistant. Again, it all goes back to also caring for the caregiver. These are resources that are provided through the Medicaid waiver for the individuals to come into the home and help.
You know about the life choices in agency? Do you know about that?
I'm sorry?
Life choices? Have you worked with them? Life choices is, I was looking it up because we have started working with them with some of the patients at Camp Life Choices. Is a HDS program, provides individualized services and supports to persons with intellectual disabilities. So that's someone that you might want to connect with.
Yeah,
Mr.
definitely.
Rodriguez. I can text you that information.
They're local, right?
They're local.
They're across close to where Nixon is at. Is that it?
It's on Corpus Christi.
Yeah, Corpus Christi.
There you go. And we have several of their clients that come to our center.
Yeah.
And they really help out.
Yeah, we work with them.
You work with them as well too?
And usually the
people.
education process towards us is everyone has different insurances. So we just try to educate them, talk to your caseworker for your insurance, and then see who if you qualify. Because we've had a lot of families, again, I hear the struggles and the process, again, I understand that they might not know the process and they might jump the gun and skip a step, but that step could be going back to the pediatrician or the doctor and having to get a new referral and then having to wait to get the evaluation. And then I was one of those parents, and I know from experience where I jumped the gun and I said, oh, my son needs ABA. And we all know how the waiting list was, or at least we were taking them to San Antonio and Corpus. We waited 6 months to get the evaluation. Then when I went, they're like, Ms. Reyes, we don't cover your insurance, or we don't do this. So what are you saying? Now I waited 6 months, and so we try to educate them at an early stage so that they don't go into those same struggles. Yeah. And majority of the time, I will be honest, we get those calls of concern where they're going through that. So we try to de-escalate it in the sense of, let us help you here and now, and this is what you can do, and I understand. And then of course we attach them, we refer them to other resources. But again, I think that's my goal as a program, is just hoping we catch them early on and educate them so that they don't go through these frustrations.
We're at 11:30, and Ms. Christine, are we done with your report?
Yes.
All right, so then we'll move on to the report from Ms. Iris.
Okay, so I'm doing emergency preparedness for people with disabilities. What I did is attend a preparedness summit in Atlanta, Georgia in April 24 to 27. The preparedness summit was a national conference related to public health preparedness, where they presented their research findings, They shared tools and resources, and I got to go with Miss Christine, and just teach us ways to kind of implement all of these resources into emergency preparedness. So some of the workshops that I went to, again, were related to disability. So I can tell you from my experience, it was a really impactful experience, because one of the workshops that we did, we got to see a scenario where a person was going through a decontamination, but it was a person in a wheelchair, and they were asking the audience, like, okay, what are the positives and what are the negatives to this type of situation? And a lot of people were pointing out that, hey, it needs to be more accessible, or it needs to be like this or like that. And I pointed out that, like, sometimes separating people from their assistive devices is a limit to their autonomy.
Of course.
So, like, that really opened the eyes and minds of some of the people around me, because there was, like, some young people there, and they were like, oh, like, I hadn't thought of that, So bringing all those perspectives, having all those talks was important for that preparedness summit. And as an individual with a disability, I just really like that interaction with people. And then the next thing on the agenda that I have to report on is that I'm going to be doing some informational, what are they called? Informational posts on specific types of hazards. So we have what is called the National Hazards Index, which talks about 18 potential hazards. So anything like avalanches, heat, flooding, and for Webb County, we see that we have a high risk, especially for, because our community is so vulnerable to those risks. So I'm going to take all of those topics like that relate to flooding and extreme heat, and then just like give out and disseminate that information to our community. And that's what I have to report.
Well, just in case we haven't said it lately, we're very proud of both of you. And I've been in this group for so many years that I can remember when y'all were part of us. And I can see a huge difference. And I want to tell you, we appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
And we'll continue to be your cheerleaders. You're doing great work, and we need it.
Thank you.
So, all right, moving on. Ms. Orduno, shall we wait for your report in order to present Cecilia with her beautiful recognition?
Yes.
We want to recognize Cecilia Gutierrez. And I want to get it right, so let me read it. She completed her Project Leadership Challenge, an initiative led by Texas Tech University. Her Texas Tech's Virginia Murray South Center for Research and Education in Sensory Disabilities. Cecilia, thank you so much. So proud of you, Cecilia. There's no stopping you.
Can we take a picture? Can I take a picture?
Oh, okay. Let's show you your
There we go. One more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that okay if I post it?
Yeah, that's fine. I want people to know.
That's what happens when you run away from it.
Cecilia, good job, and thank you for all you do. Now remember, all you did with the district. And I thought, okay, well, we all graduate. That's what I call it when we retire from service school, for we finally graduate.
I had a graduation ceremony after I left the school system. Refused to go to my retirement.
That's what I'm saying. There's no stopping Cecilia, and we're glad for that. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cecilia. Yeah. Great job, ma'am. All right, now.
Janae, can you see her? Is my chair in the way?
In the way? She
Okay,
can
sorry.
see.
Okay. I thought the chair was like.
Okay, Jeanette's good. All right, now we would like to recognize Ms. Veronica Orduño. She is going to give us a report from our Autism Coalition.
Okay, our Autism Coalition was started with one mom in mind, that she reached out to Councilwoman Perez, and from there, she had a need for her child. There wasn't any place, any daycares to take her child in the summer. I believe we're a year old now. I'm not sure. We have to check. I don't know how old we are in the Autism Coalition.
We're still crawling.
Yes, we are. But we have great leadership with Dr. Chamberlain and Miss Erica and Christine and Tiffany. You know, it's a work in process, our coalition. We are young, but we already established, like we said, chapter 1 would be autism, and that's what was presented. All Kinds of Minds was presented to the city council and was approved. Okay, so we're working with that. We're working with Parks and Recs. We're trying to bring in as many city entities as possible so that we can provide equity for our all people with disabilities, not just autism. The only thing with our committee, it's not a set committee yet, okay, because I know the Blue Ribbon Committee was supposed to be part of the Autism Coalition, and I was like, oh my God, they're gonna burn out because they go to this meeting and go to this meeting. So right now we don't have a set committee per se, except for the president, the chair, and the co-chair, and the secretary. That's it. So we need to work on how do we establish that committee so we can be a voting committee, so we can have that, because people come and go, different entities come and go. We do have the Laredo Police Department, Mireles, ABA therapists. They're there most of the time, but we need consistency from other of our members. So we are trying to do as much as we can, but again, with the leadership of people who know what they're doing. So we thank them for that, and we're very, as a parent, I'm extremely appreciative of this and where Laredo is going, where the health department is now helping us, how city council is now behind us, because yes, I get the phone calls from the living centers. This is a hot topic in our organization too. Like they want it and they want it now, and it's like we're coming, slowly but surely we're coming. So I would like to thank all of you publicly for helping us with this, and that's what we have right now.
Thank you, Ms. Orduño.
Okay, thank you.
And you too didn't retire.
No, I didn't retire.
No. And you are making a difference, like I told you earlier.
Thank you so much. I
And
appreciate
thank God
it.
for you, because so many of the gifts that come from your meetings. And I know that you're anxious to be, at step number 2,000.
Right.
But what is that saying? The journey of 1,000 steps starts with a single one. So congratulations
Thank
for the
you.
work that you're doing.
Thank
And
you
thank you
so
for your
much.
report. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Where are we? Tiffany, do we have a quorum now so that we can look at the,
No, we're missing one.
all right. Well, I guess we'll wait on reviewing the notes from the last meeting. Do we have any announcements?
I have a question. I know that I came in late. You all have the item on the hiring for the city council?
We didn't do it because Dr. Chamberlain couldn't be with us, and he was going to present that. Can you? Because you were at the meeting.
Yes, I can.
Great.
And I think it's important because I think for us, those of us that work with individuals with disabilities, it's a step for man, but a huge one for mankind. Okay. And I say that because I want to thank Ms. San Miguel. She walked into the meeting. I sent out a meeting invite, and I said, anyone that can attend for the city council meeting. And Boris, she walks in, and first very nonchalant. I was just like, I'm gonna sit. She's gonna sit here, and they kept calling Marta San Miguel. And she looks at the things, and she goes, she spoke from the heart.
That's great.
And I saw her stand there, and I knew what to say because I've been messing with this. But it was like she didn't have to practice, and that tells you that means a lot, because that means that someone is really invested.
Engaged.
We've been trying to get into the city and engage the city in removing some of the barriers that exist for individuals who are hired. And it took one, I guess, sometimes it has to hit home
Yes.
in order for someone to act
To
on
look
it.
at it.
And we had a situation where someone applied and they received an email back and it says, thank you very much for applying. However, you know, due to the fact that you don't have a driver's license, and I'm going like, what? So it took a collaborative of people. Some people will start the fire, some people will stir the pot, and some
Yes.
people will stir the food. And we got a chance to have a meal that day, and we celebrated the fact that not only was approved, but the city was extremely receptive, and other individuals who had other things to contribute, other city councilmen, said, well, can this be applied to the Parks and Rec? And so it went from a thought to a plan to an idea to an action. And so what they've done is they're going to modify the way that when someone applies, that will not be a barrier anymore.
Excellent.
For anyone, okay? Which is an amazing thing because there are a lot of positions in the city where individuals with and without disabilities,
Right.
and we're not, we concentrate on disabilities that we work with,
Right.
but that includes individuals who might have too many tickets and might have lost their drive, but they still have the capacity to do that because they can use other modes of transportation. And it includes people from other countries who have a lot to contribute and don't have a driver's license because you're not allowed to have one. So I want to say honestly that Daniel was there, Mr. Garcia was there, Martha was there, myself, and
Ms. Diana.
and Ms. Diana were there. We were there, and we celebrated with Dr. Chamberlain. He was there also with us. And I think if we go out and we start acting more on our thoughts and ideas, I think this committee will move mountains.
Change will come.
Yes, change will come. But sometimes it takes, I mean, someone can talk here, another person says, you know what, I think I can run with this. So I think we're a great team, and I think we do a lot for the people we serve. I look at Christina, and I remember when she said, you used to say, oh, I did this, and I was wondering, how does she do all this stuff? Now she's a person team, soon to be an 8-person team. So I want to celebrate that that our thoughts came together, our passions were driven, and we're in one like mind, and we are making a difference.
And change came.
Yeah, and change
Yes.
came. I mean, we've been trying to do this, for about 9-10 years?
Yes, it's been a while.
And you did.
Yeah. So we celebrate today. So yeah, it was good. It was good, but it took honestly, it took Dr. Chamberlain and the city health department to outreach the different entities and put it together, because we can all talk, but unless you know the right people and unless you know what buttons to push, it sometimes it takes longer. But this time it didn't take that long. Felt good.
It did. I think, and I guess we couldn't believe it afterwards, because as we were walking out, because we needed to leave, we're like, whoa, saber qué pasa? And then the chambers are like, what do you mean? Like, no, like they already passed it, like they're gonna review, and we're like, wait, what? Like, because they were just taken by surprise.
So I guess what you're saying is, when will I see the procedure change? Is that what you're saying? But I think it has to change.
Well, yeah, it does. And the thing about it is, we won't know until we have individuals who apply, and that doesn't come back again. And
But you can quote May 1st.
Well, the thing about it is, the beauty of it is that we have legal support. The legal support team from the city of Laredo is 100% behind us.
Excellent.
HR is 100% behind us.
Excellent.
So I think it's a win-win situation, because if we're talking about inclusivity and we're talking about receiving federal grants, this is an opportunity for the
Yes.
city to say, not only are we receiving funds, but we're actually acting on this
Yes.
to make it happen.
Yes,
And
it's
so that's-
implemented.
Yeah.
And it was that type of meeting, because legal spoke up, HR, and then a lot of the council members each had an opinion. Like, we were just thinking, oh, we're just going to talk a little bit and then bye, that's it. And it was other council members, I can't recall right now their names, but one of them spoke about, oh, and then for the summer, the young adults, since I know for the Parks and Rec, usually you need seasonal, and it's usually young adults that are applying, which for the most part, not all of them have a driver's license. And then they were like, and then let's extend that to SEAL. It came out from their mouth. Like, we hadn't even addressed summer and learn experiences, and another councilman was like, and let's extend this as well to the summer and learn program. So we were all like, just
Yeah, wave of blessings.
like different council members, completely all different.
Have
So-
you considered what would have happened if y'all hadn't been there?
Oh yeah, nothing would have happened.
You notice that you're making a difference?
Oh yeah, definitely. I tell people I'm very annoying. I really do.
What is it? The squeaky wheel.
Not perfect, but annoying.
But annoying in a good way.
Yes.
In a way that brings change and
Yes.
benefit for others.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, benefit for others.
Yeah.
That's so great. That's so great. Congratulations.
Yeah, but I do have to give it to Martha because I saw her up and
No,
I'm
and
like,
she-
oh,
she's
Because we got there, right? And Miss Ceci and Miss Yana already there, and they're like, Marta, come on, sign up for public comments. And I was like,
No.
but then they promised. Let me share a little bit. They're like, we already signed up. We're going to go up as the team. And I'm like, okay. So I sign, right? I sit, and then I'm just looking at the agenda, and even then I'm like, okay, I wonder what we're gonna, like, how we're gonna address it. So I'm just thinking, right? And then we're like the very last item, so we're like,
Usually we are.
we're like, okay, like, no problem. And then, okay, we did start and the Pledge of Allegiance, and then Marta San Miguel, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I go up, and I'm like, you ladies need to go up with me. But then they're waiting for me, so I thank God because council member, was it Miss Vanessa? Miss Perez, she wasn't there yet. So they stopped. They're like, you know what? I think one other council member said, what if we wait for her? Because since this is her item, so yes. I was like, do you ladies agree? I was like, yes, we do. So then we had time to, now I had time to like process my thoughts, and then
Let it percolate.
yes, and then I know Mr. Castillon got there afterwards, so we still used him as like, can you start? But then we all spoke about together, but we all.
But it was very good.
It was yes.
I was proud of us for being proud of us.
And it's good that we're I don't want to say making people aware, because city council has always been aware, but bottom line, you guys are making a difference. And so grateful, really grateful for you.
And then in reality, I did talk about, because I did tell them, in capacity as a VR counselor for the blind and visually impaired, these are certain experiences that I've had with customers that they really wanted to work for the city, and because of not having this, for the most part, I know that they haven't been hired, not because of they have all of this experience, all these
And
abilities,
they're very able to
and
do
they're
that.
very able, and unfortunately, because of the driver's license,
The fence goes up.
that was probably the biggest barrier that they probably wouldn't get called back because of that. So I just told them a little bit about what I've noticed.
And you make them aware
Mhm.
from a first person
Yes.
perspective, because you've been through it. It's great.
I think, if I may add, I think this committee should move forward with considering the possibility of having city council as well as the new mayor participate in a training that talks about people first language. 1, 2, talks about understanding barriers, understanding accommodations, providing them access to the JAN website so they understand where to get information like that. And a little bit maybe of information that will empower them to make the choices and decisions, because if you look at your panel, not everyone, some people have information about medical, some people have information about different areas, but they don't. This is a very unique population. And we're not talking about 10 to 15%, maybe 12% of the school district addresses. We're talking about by the time that we turn 60, 65, whatever, we become that population. So you're talking about 20%, 20 to 25% of the population.
Of the whole population.
And I think education is a key if we really want to make a difference. And I don't mind being annoying.
But I'm thinking in terms of what you've accomplished with all of this. And I'm thinking an emeritus professor at A&M taught us one time, and it stayed with me. Cecilia, a problem well defined is half solved. And that's what I see you guys doing. You went up there and you said, look, this is the story. The population that I serve, they were very capable. They could do this job. But because of this one barrier, look at lives changed and not for the better. So I think that's part of it too, is just presenting to them, this is the problem, specifically, this is what we need to do.
I'll look into the trainings. I can share them with Dr. Chamberlain and Ms. Martinez. I know I have brought up one in the beginning of March that TCDD was offering, but the deadline was already passed. That one is, again, driven through the Texas Council of Developmental Disabilities, but I could also contact the Governor's Committee to see if they do any additional ones for municipal governments.
I think we should use our local resources. I think TWC would do a great job at providing that information. I think members of our committee that we have could possibly contribute to that training. Why? Because I travel a lot, and what works in Marilu does not work in San Antonio.
Right.
What works in San Antonio doesn't work in Austin. So when you look at that, you have to look at culture. You have to look at all those things. Resources. Because if you teach for the general public across a country, you're going to fall short. But if you address the needs of your specific population, you're going to have a win-win situation.
Yes.
So I think it's great that we have those resources. And I think it's great that they have them on video, but there's nothing like the personal touch.
These are more of scholarship and stipends where they come here and they do classes.
Yes.
So I mean, I know there's virtual ones, but these are more dedicated for us to apply, and then there's a process to the application, but it's strictly for like our area. There's stipends, there's scholarships, but again, I could bring it up to Dr. Chamberlain, Ms. Martinez, to see if it's something we can present later or see what options there are. But definitely anything that's local that could help.
Let's follow through on that.
That's great.
All right, one of the announcements that I wanted to mention is this week is appreciation for our police force. So, and this is just from me, not from the Blue Ribbon Committee. If you have someone in your family or you know someone who is a police officer that you want to show appreciation, sometimes just saying thank you for the work that you do goes a long way. So I just wanted to bring that up. Is there any other announcement before we adjourn? Good job all around.
I think we should thank Ms. Jeanette Ramos for remaining so quiet but working so hard all the time. She's out of the background just typing away, and she does a great job writing those minutes.
Yes, she does. We appreciate you, Jeanette.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms.